Welcome to the Gems Podcast with Sean, a podcast about beat digging, records, and other things. Today, I'm joined by Torres, music executive with a wide range of accomplishments across music, culture, and publishing. One experience that might be notable to our listeners is Andre was the founder, editor, and chief of Wax Poetics magazine. And if that wasn't enough, editor-in-chief of Scratch magazine, aka king of the beat digging era magazines. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Right on, bro. Yo, Sean, I appreciate you, bro. That's a legendary intro, so much respect.
It's such a unique accomplishment, both of these magazines, because you're taking something that is inherently obscure. I mean, it's not easy to find out these things. It's a bit of, that's kind of the excitement of it. And you kind of played a role, both of these magazines, Wax Poetic, maybe in a one way, Scratch in a different way, played a role in legitimizing the world of beat digging and kind of beyond information, which is great, documenting, great, but it kind of like took this niche culture and elevated it, giving like kind of a deeper sense of appreciation, almost like a prestige. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. I've never actually heard it quite praised that way. So, yeah, that's high praise. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say that, as a person, I've started this podcast a few months back. I can't tell you how much interest there is in this topic. And you kind of laid a groundwork for that. I could see the passion. People are interested in talking about it. People who are way more famous than me are down to be on this podcast because it's a cool topic, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we're discussing vintages of wine in a certain way. Like it's like an elevated thing compared to maybe our early memories as kids learning about records.
Yeah.
So
Certainly.
I'll ask you, tell us about your early exposure to the world of beat digging.
Wow. Probably, I grew up in Florida. I was born in New York, but I was born in New York in the Bronx in 1969, but we left in 1972. My father actually owned a record store in the Bronx at the time. So my earliest memories of records are around our house, lots of records. But we moved to Florida and he left the records. So actually growing up, I didn't have records around me. And it wasn't until probably high school, college, really, that I started. This is like late 80s that I started really like going out to thrift stores and looking for records, like, because like I know there's this sample on this record and I heard what's his name sampled this. And it's like, man, I know that record. So now I'm coming back home from college and I see my father's now buying records from thrift stores too, but he's trying to buy a lot of the records that he left in New York. Things like Les McCann Layers. I remember that was the first time I saw that record in person. Was my father had picked it up. I was like, wait, where'd you find this? Oh, yeah, I've been buying all these at the thrift store. So I started coming back home and digging through his newly acquired collection and being like, wait, there's beats all in here. These are the records that you used to have. So that was really the beginning of it for me, was like around then that I started to kind of become like obsessed with it. And, back then records were so cheap. I go to the Salvation Army, they'd be like, oh yeah, 10 records for $1. And it's like at 10 cents a piece. Like, bro, I'm buying anything and everything that looks like it could be cool. So, yeah, those were the kind of glory days. And, I was kind of late to it. By then, even people I knew had been raiding these places for years. I come to find out later on, it was like, man. So that's when I kind of realized, like, oh, this is like a bit of a thing. And like, I'm not that late to it that I'm like feeling like there's not much road left ahead of me, but like I feel like there's been enough road paved ahead that or behind me that I feel like, oh shit, you know what? There's a story here. There's a larger narrative from, at this point, especially once I get to New York after I graduate college, and I'm actually starting to be in some of the record stores or go to um, the like Armory show or whatever that show was at the time they were doing at that one hotel. And it was again way past its heyday, but I'd still see like a mirror there and people from the scene and these legendary collectors still kind of bringing these records that like I only heard about, never seen before, and
You mean the Roosevelt Hotel?
Roosevelt, yes.
Yeah.
Hundreds of dollars. These like I'm like again at the point I'm still digging out of the dollar bin. I'm like, what? I don't even understand how any of this works. But I'm like, there's clearly like a thing here, and it's like I'm seeing the story of these records and how they become samples and they have these break beats and they're kind of like the foundation of a lot of like records I'm hearing. And now it's like once the kind of internet chat room era came and the breaks came and people were in there, I remember meeting people like Diplo and all these people were just talking about records and asking nerd questions about records and solving like what sample was this and how many samples does this person have. And so I started realizing, oh shit, there's like people all over the world, like super nerds in Italy and Germany and the UK and yeah, everybody was like trading all this info, but I was having a hard time keeping up with it, really. That was the main thing for me. It was just so much information trading that I needed somewhere to compile it. And so selfishly for me, it was like I'm printing out lists of records to take into record stores with me. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to use this info. I'm going to be stealth with, I'm going to go in and be like, yo, you got any of these records? So that really was the genesis of the magazine. It was like, man, I need something I can take into the store with me that, would be like a manual of sorts.
Dude, I had this very similar experience. I used to write like long lists or print things.
Yeah,
And
yes.
looking back, it's such a hopeless way to do it. But yeah, you have the
I
same
know.
experience.
Like you're
Yeah.
gonna walk in and find this rare $300 record. It just happens to be on this wall here. Yeah, sure. Nah, bro, I know. I get it. So, yeah, that was really how the whole digging thing started for me. Was just kind of like I just had to try to figure out the puzzle. I would hear records get sampled and I wouldn't know exactly where it was from, and then I'd be just trying to track it down or figure out. Once I got in with people who knew, then they were answering a lot of questions and solving things that I could quickly like, oh, that's that record. Okay, now I know that record I'm looking for. It's on my list. It's like
Are we
so
talking New York or Florida?
that was by the time I got to New York. Yeah. In Florida, I felt like a kind of, you know, lone wolf. I didn't have like a community. Even by the time I got to New York, I started meeting other people. Or you're in record stores, you meet people. I had people who I'd gone to college with that now are living in New York, and I'm digging with them. So it was definitely different in Florida because I didn't know anybody else who was looking for records. So yeah, it was typically mostly just me on my own. Yeah, pretty much even throughout college. It wasn't until like the end of college that I started to meet some other people, some of whom one became my editor in Wax Poetics, Brian DeGenti. I think I had been digging for records, and one of our mutual friends was moving, I think. It was like, yo, can you come over, play some records, like house party thing? I was like, yeah, sure. I've, been buying all these records, and so I brought some and played. And this kid sitting there in the front with this girl, like staring kind of hardcore, looking, listening, and everything. I'm like, who is this guy? He's like, oh, yeah, this is my homie, Brian. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he introduced me. And then, he's like, "Oh man, I got this record if you want to play it." I think it was like, might have been like a DJ Crush record. It was like on like some, it's like 94, 95, like some trip hop shit. I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, no, definitely, man." I think I might have played a track, or maybe not that night, but yeah, we wound up trading info, and then that kind of became like, at the time I moved to New York first, and then I would just like hit him and be like, "Yo, look what I found today." And I'd be on the phone like playing breaks. "Oh shit, listen to that." Oh, he's like, "Oh damn." And he'd be playing me stuff he found, at that point still in Florida, but then he quickly moved up to New York with me. Um, and then we would just kind of go ham on trading same stories. Then he wound up eventually moving to California, and then we would do it from California to New York. But he was now finding all sorts of weird records I would never find in New York and shit. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, that part of it is still very interesting to me, the kind of geographic sounds. Now that I live out here in San Pedro, even there's certain weird records. I've been talking to Tess One, and kind of our wives have become friends, so we've been hanging out a little bit. And yeah, going over to his house and seeing the kinds of records he accumulated living in this area, very particular weird type of Southern California weirdness that, yeah, a lot of private press stuff that you never would find these records like out in New York. So yeah, that's sort of how the whole thing bit me. And yeah, now it's like I have to kind of fight it off at this point. It's like,
Take us to the genesis of Wax Poetics.
yeah, I mean, a lot of it came out of this, what I was just talking about, really, trying to accumulate all this information about records. And then also within that, there were questions I had about artists, about black music, about why we didn't hear more about this person, or I would hear about some record and be like surprised, like nobody knows this person. Hear about people like David Axelrod and like all the stuff he had produced and stuff that had sampled. I'm like, man, why does nobody know about who this guy is? Like, what is this insane? But this group of people all seemed very aware of who this guy was and how important he was and the work he had done and who the players were on the records and shit. I'm like, damn, okay, so I think initially I did have an idea to create some sort of documentary, even though I wasn't a documentary filmmaker. I got my degree in painting, but I was thinking maybe this would be the way to tell this story. After going to the Roosevelt and looking at records and being on the internet, looking at people buying a bunch of records on eBay, this is pre-Discogs even. There was clearly a community of people doing this. It was just like, what is it? What's the story here if I were going to make a documentary? And it was sort of hinging on this idea that like, oh man, these producers and record nerds are finding these records way back 30 years ago, and they were turning these records into like park jam favorites, rocking doubles. Eventually, I'm seeing these same records get sampled, and they kind of become the foundation of what people know as hip hop, eventually dance music at large. And, I'm like, damn, that's a story that I couldn't see told anywhere. I went into Barnes and Noble and every bookstore, and I'm looking on the newsstand at The Source and Vibe and all, and they're kind of touching on parts of it, but not really kind of going right in. And I think that was really where I was like, okay, what I would love to see is this type of magazine or periodical or whatever. After having gone to art school, I was like looking at hip hop magazines like, man, why they like treat this shit like garbage? Because it'd be like off register printing and like, I'm looking at these art journals and they're like, really nice and well designed, and people take this shit seriously. I'm like, well, who's going to ever take this shit seriously if it's printed and treated like this? Like, so that's where, there was like a sort of elevated approach to kind of presenting the material, even though it very much still came from like a DIY kind of like 90s idea of like how you would staple bound a, a a zine together, I guess. Because when I started, it was like 99, 2000, like the year 2000, when I kind of came up with the idea. So coming out of the 90s, most people assume when I said, oh, I'm going to start a magazine, oh, like a zine. And they kind of assumed it was going to be like staple bound and Xeroxed. And so when I launched it and people came out for the party, that first one, they were like, damn, this is like a magazine, bro. They were kind of like surprised, like, I was like, yeah, bro, I told you I want to do some real shit. So, yeah, I did, again, after having gone to art school, it was like, yo, I knew, like, oh, this is what I want this shit to look like. And I wanted something that, again, I would read hip-hop magazines and throw them in the garbage. Be like, hell, there ain't nothing in here worth keeping. So I'm like, I want something that, like, you'd be able to flex and leave on your coffee table. And, we're collecting records. I want something that we could collect, and we want to hold these things. And I just had no idea about journalism or magazines, or I loved reading magazines. I just had never had any experience. In college, I did a couple of because the common friend me and my editor he had worked at this jazz magazine. And so I had written a couple of album reviews, really. And then out of that, because I was a painting major, I started doing some illustration for them as well. But that was about all the experience I had. So when I got the idea that this documentary thing, I started trying to figure out if it could make it work. And it was like, man, there's really no information out here to do a documentary. It's like somebody needs to actually put this core parts of this down. So if somebody ever wanted to do a documentary, then they'd have some reference material. So I figured, okay, we're going to do the reference material. We're going to put together the first part, and maybe out of that there can be some documentary to grow out of this or something. So yeah, I just figured, all right, we'll just do the assembling all this info and stories and people that I had heard about and records I had heard about, and again, that kind of manual journal thing that again started to look at the black diaspora and music and how it had kind of spread all over. It was very much a lens of we're learning about a lot of this Bob James, James Brown, whoever it might be, David Axelrod, through the lens of hip hop. So it wasn't it was a very specific kind of perspective, things that we were looking for. We were looking for certain drum patterns and certain sounds, and so again, it wasn't like your dad's jazz magazine or hip hop magazine, or, it was kind of very unique perspective. And either you got it or you didn't. You were either in this world and you knew what we were doing here and what we were looking for, or you were like, why am I reading this article about this weird Colombian guy who made records in the 1970s? It's like, oh, you don't know Fruco? Oh, shit, bro. Somebody... You either knew this guy has some really dope shit, and if you like shit like this, you're probably gonna fuck with this too. I heard people say some hip hop critics, one on a podcast once, I heard him say, why would I want to read an article about somebody I don't know about? And I was just like, wow, that's such an interesting thing for a music journalist to say, because that just shows you the state of hip hop music journalism, especially. It's probably maybe 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, that I heard that. I thought it was funny, but I definitely realized oh yeah, it does. There's a threshold. It takes you either being open to learning about this stuff. Oh damn, my bad.
It's all good.
The block is hot today.
You were talking about journalists.
Oh yeah, hip hop journalists. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a threshold, I realized, and not everybody was willing to go that extra length, and not everybody was that interested in hip hop that they wanted to know how the sausage was made. Some of them just wanted it after it had been made and manufactured and put in front of them, but they weren't interested in understanding, what record did Just Blaze sample to make that beat for Jay, or whoever. Like that to me was the one of the most fascinating parts about hip hop was the process, especially after being a painting major who was like obsessed with like, cubism and how one might sort of perceive the world, and another guy on the other side, is doing the same similar thing, and it winds up becoming cubism. But and it winds up sort of being a domino effect that, the way that's really the beginning of modern art. And it's a sort of collage perspective of taking different kind of viewpoints and piecing it all together. As I'm learning about this in college and listening to hip hop, there were clearly parallels about this being a very postmodernist approach to making music. If you learn in art school about John Cage and all these other guys, it's clear guys like, Hank Shockley were very much, from my perspective, at the same level of genius as a Brian Eno or any of the rest of these dudes. So, I think I also wanted to kind of put them into the right perspective, and not only is be about Hank, but he was sampling James Brown records. Let's go back and figure out like why those James Brown records were so dope in the first place too. And then it doesn't become like hip hop is some sort of like anomaly that just popped up out of nowhere. It's clearly like, especially if you grow up in the era we did, where you're hearing, oh, this isn't music and this isn't that and this isn't this, and then it like clearly you're like, no, this is, and now we're watching it play out in culture, become a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's like, yo, I told y'all, I told you. So I think there was a validating point to make as well about that this was art, and that they were making art, and they were making art out of other art, because even the way black music from that era had been treated, whether you were James Brown or even all the way through the early days of hip hop, it wasn't really much of a difference. They were not taking it seriously. And I looked at jazz music and how it had kind of become codified and, academicized. And, I thought, what am I going to have to wait around for them to do that with this stuff, hip hop? And like, we can do that on our own. Like, I don't need, I thought there are some magazines out here who are making it hard for us to make that case, because they're not treating it like art either. They're now doing like 8-page spreads on sneakers and shit, which is cool, but it's like, bro, I'd much rather find out about how what's his name made that beat, or what's his name was thinking about as he was, now they're like in the car and they're riding around with this dude, and it's like, bro, I want more out of this journalism if I'm going to wind up having to pay for this. So, yeah, I just figured, well, let's just tell the stories. I thought it was just me, but when I wind up in this internet world of other people all over the world, I'm like, oh, damn, there's a lot of other super hip-hop nerds out there who are also digging for these records and are looking to solve these puzzles and want to know these stories. That was really when I just thought, okay, there's enough of us out here that we could just do something just to speak to us. And that was it. That was really all I needed to just start and realize, okay, it's not a doc, it's a magazine, and it's like a music journal, and it's like it all kind of became very crystal clear. Still not understanding how the economics of any of that worked. But, I hit my boy and was like, bro, I got this idea to do a magazine. My boy Brian, he's like, word? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, you worked on some magazine stuff, right, in college, right? It's like, I remember you worked over there. You were like an intern, right? You know how to do this then. It's like, yeah, God, we figure it out. So, yeah, he became my editor, and he was like, yo, there's a kid here. I work at this internet company. He's like a web designer, but he's dying to do something in print. I'm like, yo, put him on. Like, I never even met the dude. It was just like, yeah, let's go. Like, he's like, yeah, he's down. He says he'll lay it out. Cool. So, yeah, that was all I needed, bro. We just started And I would just reach out to people on the internet. It's like 2,000 people writing articles. They put their email address at the end. Contact, blah, blah. Bro, that was a dope article on that record, bro. Like, I'm trying to do a magazine. I don't really have budget or anything, but I loved what you wrote. And, if you'd be down, I'd love, to have you be part of this. I was selling software and recruiting engineers for a tech company at the time. So I just sort of like stopped doing that for engineers and started doing it for like writers and people that I saw doing cool shit on the internet. I'm like, yo, right out of the office of the World Trade Center. I'd be like, yo, bro, what's up, Brian? I'm getting all these records sent from eBay.
You're taking your sales powers and putting it for something interesting and compelling. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a hustle, a pivot of the hustle inside the building, And I think, yeah, it got to the point where they were like, okay, that was why, like a month before the towers went down, they were like, laid me off. Like it was like August 4th. They were like, yeah, and I mean, I would have laid me off. I was surprised I lasted as long as I did. It'd been almost a year. I had not really done much. I had just sort of like been buying a lot of records, having them shipped to the office. They were every day there'd be more records. Like, wow, you are buying a lot of records. It was like research from blah blah blah. And eventually, yeah, when thank God they let me out of there. I had worked on it for almost a year at that point. It was August, and I had come up with the idea like around the holidays, the year 2000, like right around the holidays, and then just started working on it, and then we wound up through the year 2001. I got laid off August 4th. Towers went down September 11th. And then we launched the first issue December 11th. It was literally 3 months to the day because I was at that point like, I don't know if anybody's going to want to read a magazine about music. It was like we weren't quite done yet. We were almost finished. But at that point, like, oh, man, I was a little kind of distraught. I knew people who were in there, and I was just like, fuck it. What do we got to lose? Like, I was like, man, probably could have been in that bitch. Like, we probably should just put the magazine out and see what happens. I don't know from here. And yeah, that was really it. We just did the one copy, the one issue rather. And then, there was good enough response that it was like, oh shit, you know what? Let's do another one. Then I had to understand the mechanics of running a magazine. I'm like, all right, so yeah, where's my money? They're like, oh yeah, well, let me explain how the distribution game where it was like, now you got to wait 6 months, and so you're going to need money to print this issue. But it was like, wait, I don't got no more money. We used it all to print this one. So that was why the second issue took about 6 months to come, because I had to wait for them to send me all my money from the first one before I could actually print another one, until you get to a point where you go to the bank and you get credit at the printer, and all that stuff came later. At first, I was just winging it, bro. Let's borrow some money from this homie's pop, put some on a credit card. I max my shit out. Let's do it, bro. So, yeah.
This story is like an incredible combination of, let's say, creative appreciation. You're borrowing from the art world, contextualizing music that you love in a new way, a bit of circumstance, like a bit of like
very much,
and then massive amount of just entrepreneurial rolling of the dice, making shit happen.
Yeah. That is, and again, I think you nail it there with that, because that's the part I tell everybody, especially young people now and older people my age, because, I just turned 56 this year. And it's like, I did that when I was 32, which, again, was late, I thought. Most people, you think now, they kind of come out of the gate in their 20s and they're so entrepreneurial. It took me a minute to figure out what it was I wanted to do. But once I was clear on it, then I just really threw caution to the wind. I was fearless. Like, there was nothing anybody could tell me that this wasn't going to work. I mean, it was just like, I was so dead set on making this magazine happen and so passionate about it. And every time I got in somebody's face to talk about it, they were like, yeah, dude, what do you want me to do? It was like I was galvanizing energy. So I tell people, because I, mentor a lot of people now and over the years, and people will ask me like, how do I get into this? Like, how do I get in the industry? How do I do this? It's like, start. Like, just start. Like, really, what do you want to do? Like, I said, I want to make a magazine. So I just started making a magazine. I didn't know, there was one manual I bought. It's like how to run a newsletter or a magazine for dummies. That was an actual book. And I bought it and I highlighted it and read everything about how you would do a newsletter for dummies. And I was like, okay, I got a pretty good idea. My boys are like, this is what you're going to use to build this up. Oh, we winging it here. So, but again, I'm pretty convincing when I'm passionate about something. And I think that is what carried over. And the naivete, had I known anything about the magazine industry, I've had people who I wound up meeting years later who like went to school to get master's degree in magazines, and they would pick up the magazine, oh, this got good, this, that, and the other, and talk about all this stuff, things I didn't know anything about when I put this. And if I had, it probably would have been too intimidating. I would have said, oh my God, do you know how hard it is to launch a magazine? I mean, the economics of it alone. I mean, no one survived.
No one in their right mind, no business person would have taken that like, oh, that's a good business idea.
Right.
You have to be passionate.
Right. Yeah, you're right, bro. And so I realized like when you're young and you're trying to just do the shit, just do the shit and fall on your face. Bro, we failed so many times, and still it was like a series of like, you get up and okay, now what? How are we going to do this? And you just keep going. And I think that was the lesson for me growing into being a grown ass man, because, I'm raising 3 kids. I'm married. I'm trying to actually make a living at this and live this dream. There's a ton of sacrifice involved in that. And I think, you really have to want it. And if you're half in and half out and you're not committed and you're, wanting this sort of comfortable bubble that a lot of people think that they deserve at a certain point in life, it's going to be easy to be like, oh, you know what? Fuck this, bro. I'm going to get a regular job. I'm going to get a this, or I'm going to get a that. And so, yeah, I think you really are better off not knowing shit most of the time and just going in just on pure adrenaline and passion and figuring it out as you go. Because if you know too much, you get too scared, you become too cautious, and fear dictates every move, and you'll never get anywhere like that. And that's the thing I've seen now with people my age, as I try to remain fearless in my approach. I've been around, especially as I moved into the music industry and being around guys my age and even younger, their whole thing is just not to rock the boat and to keep things nice and easy and don't come in here and do this and don't do that. And it's like, bro, I can't live like this. Like, I need to be trying to make something happen and do something ill and dope and creative and take some chances. And that's why I think I appreciated my time within the kind of major label institutions and all of that at the time I spent there. But yeah, where I'm at now, operating kind of as an independent consultant and working with a number of different companies on a bunch of different interesting shit. For me, again, back to that kind of entrepreneurial hustle. And I think I got into the industry and realized most of these people, they've never done anything but work at record labels. So I'm in there like, yo, let me get this album cover. Oh, I got my man at Supreme wants to do a T-shirt, and then they're like, wait, what? What are you like? Yeah. No, we got this Mary J. Blige, and he hit me about Jizza, and they're like, well, we have to call man, come on, man, we're trying to make this money. They're like, like, I don't understand. I thought like we were trying to make some bread here and we got all kinds of stuff we can do. Like, companies are interested. Like, they were like, wait, what are you doing, bro? So I realized like most of these places, they have a very particular role that you play and you fit in this box and you come in and you do this job, and then eventually 20 years later they come pat you on the back and go, oh, thanks for your time. And now it's, I watched that process while I was there too. Some guys 30 years, and the next thing you know, and now they've been doing that one thing 30 years, they don't know anything else. And now there's no other place for them to go. They've spent their entire career at this one company. So that was also part of how I wound up moving when I got out of Wax Poetics. It was just, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep staying fearless, and I'm going to keep trying to learn the next shit. And
So let's touch on that point. Wax Poetics, tremendous arc. It was successful. Whatever happens business-wise, it was successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, because of what it put out, the appreciation, how people enjoyed it, the creative value. And like I said, it was a bit of an inflection point. I almost relate like the world of beautiful record bars and kisas all over the world. That kind of wood grain luxury approach, friend of mine call it elevated digging or fancy digging. I mean, it's because Wax was helped to bring this kind of sophistication to something that people did as teenagers that is kind of dirty and like
dusty,
right, it's dusty, but it made it a little bit like intellectualized and glamorized in a way.
Right? A lifestyle aspect of it.
Yes, that's appreciated today. I mean, there are record bars, I'm sure they're happening all over California, in New York, where you feel like you're in a film and they're playing vinyl. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I saw it when I wound up going to Korea.
Yeah.
Seen it in Japan.
The Kisas,
And, it's like, I didn't realize that we were part of this culture. But once I started even visiting some of these locations, they had Wax Poetics in there. They were already Wax Poetics heads, and they were like, "Oh fuck, Wax Poetics, that's our shit." Like it was like, "Damn, these are my people." Like we all over the world. So yeah, I definitely started to see it explode from a lifestyle and cultural standpoint. And yeah, I've been fond of watching it mature over the years, and
what I wanted to get at is you did something important and successful.
Thank you.
Right?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Now, you went on to another phase. I mean, many other phases, right? But I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Scratch Magazine.
Oh, yes.
The people who listen to this podcast are all nerds for that. I bought them all. I even recall getting like upset about some of the later producers. I was like, that guy's pop. And now I was like, actually, I was wrong. It's all good. And I just think that arc was hilarious.
Yeah, I was already out at that.
It's like right, they did nothing wrong. They're trying to run a business. I was looking at it as a kid.
That's exactly it, bro. That's exactly it. But yeah.
So tell me about that phase, because it was a hell of a magazine. I mean, it had crazy facts.
Yeah, no, that was like the Wax Poetics brain in the commercial hip hop world. It was now, and it came out of Wax Poetics being in an office at somebody's office in Universal, and the guys from Harris Publications saw it. He was looking at it. He's like a big soul collector, so he was like, "Man, I want to get some back issues," and he kind of reached out through the email and the magazine, and they were like, "Oh, this guy from Harris Publications is asking about old issues." I'm like, I hit him back, "Oh yeah, man." I was like, "Oh, that's cool, you collect." It's like, "Oh, I published Double XL and everything." I'm like, "Well, okay, yeah, no, I know all that shit. Why don't you come in the office?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll bring a couple copies." So I go in there to talk, and it's him and the associate publisher, and they're talking about the fact that they had just sold Guitar Player, one of those guitar magazines, and they were noticing how he's like, when I was young and I got my, I had my 13th birthday bar mitzvah gift money, I went out and bought a guitar, but now kids want turntables. And so I was like, yeah, definitely. And like by extension, like MPCs, like because they were like talking about like scratching and turntables, and I'm like, yeah, but it's now 2004. I'm like, people have understood the role of the DJ, and yes, it might be hitting guys like yourself at the bar mitzvah level now at 13, but for guys who've been DJs for a long period of time, they're really transitioning into producers. Like, and there are names that have been DJs for many years who are becoming like larger than life in the world of production. To me, that's as they're kind of leading down this narrative. What do you think about this idea? I'm like, that to me is the interesting part. Like, because again, it's at the DNA of records and DJs and samples. And now we can start talking about in the early 2000s equipment and what equipment was being used and is still being used and isn't. And now there's all these new, this is like around the time that like Ninth Wonder was using Fruity Loops, and people were, oh man, he's making beats on a computer and this, that.
What a spin.
Totally. It's hilarious now. All I make beats on is my iPad, and it's like to think that at one point people were shaming this guy for making them on a laptop. So yeah, it's it just became like, oh yeah, there's another story here, and it's a lot of stuff we couldn't necessarily do in Wax Poetics. Now we're at about our third year. Yeah, second, third year. And so I've got pretty good idea on what I want to do there, but I saw a whole opportunity of what we could do with Scratch and how we would have access through Double XL to get like Dr. Dre and Dr. John and the Neptunes and whoever else, like, or Lil Jon, not Dr. John. Thinking about my beat digging days. And, thinking, bro, like, we can talk about equipment and review equipment. And again, there's a lifestyle component. So the sneaker guys want to bring and do a thing of sneakers, but we'll put them with keyboards and blah, blah, blah. This is like a whole nother lifestyle part of this. But yeah, I could get a chance to elevate that in the world of like commercial hip hop magazines. And so they were like, yo, is this something you'd be interested in doing? And I was like, at the time I was running the magazine, but I also worked, I was running the magazine on the side. I worked like in construction during the day, doing plaster work. And on the weekend, I worked at a catering booth on the Upper West Side, doing like catering orders and shit, like doing the orders, people to come pick up and shit. So
That's where I am now, by the way, the Upper West Side. I mean,
oh, are you? Okay, right
yeah,
on. Much respect to damn, what was the name? It's right around the corner from Zabar's.
okay.
I don't think they're there anymore now that I think about it. Shit, I gotta do some digging. But yeah, that was like, wait, you want me to do a magazine? Are you gonna pay me? Like, I've been doing magazine for free for years now, and I'm still working construction. So they were like, bro, they're gonna put us in an office, and I told everybody, yeah, well, I need like staff I have to hire. I've just brought the Wax Poetics team in and said, we brought a couple of extra people to give it, some different flavor and make it more commercial and whatnot. And yeah, we just, first one, I had somebody in mind for Dr. Dre for the first issue. I knew I wanted Dre for the first issue. And we got to Dre's team and they're like, who do you want? And so we sent out the info about the writer. I won't even say who it was. Excellent writer. I didn't plan on doing any writing. Like Wax Poetics, I never felt I was a writer. I know people who do it for a living and they're really good at it. Times I stepped in was because I had to, or they felt like, oh, Dre, you should interview, like Eugene McDaniels or something like, this would be a great combo. I was like, all right, yeah, cool, But I never thought I was a writer so I suggested someone else to do the Dre, and they turned him down. They rejected. I was like, wait, what? So my executive editor, Tony Gervino, who wound up becoming the head of Billboard magazine, and then he's now the head of content at Tidal. He's like, bro, you should do it. I'm like, what? No. He's like, yo, we should send him some Wax Poetics. And I'm telling you, it's got to be you. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And that's what we wound up doing. And they were like, yes, Andre Torres, we'll let him. I'm like, oh fuck. So I had to come out to LA. It was one of the first times I ever came out of here. And yeah, I got a chance to spend the day at the studio with Dre. I remember vividly he played Maroon 5.
What?
And we were all in the studio and he was started playing stuff. One of the first things he played was like Roy Ayers.
Okay.
Everybody Loves the Sunshine. He's like, and I had a stack of Wax Poetics. And Roy was the latest issue. It was issue number 7. It was like, I was like, oh, Dre, I got some. It was Roy right on top. He's like, oh, Roy, did you hear what's playing? I was like, I know, bro. Yes. Roy is my nigga. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, he was just playing music, and this has taken its toll on me. This is before, I think I had maybe heard the song like one time. He's like, what do you think of these kids? I was like, I gotta hear this. Actually, it's kind of funky. I'm not mad at this track. Like, it's like, this is gonna go. Watch. Sure enough, of course, everybody knows who Maroon 5 is now. But he was also
What was Dre's role in Maroon 5?
well. Remember, he was right there with Jimmy. Everything that Jimmy was signing at the time at Interscope, he was handing it to Dre. That's how they wound up finding Eminem in that pile of tapes. So yeah, similarly, he was like playing me Game that I had never heard. I had heard about Game and I knew there was like a thing being worked on and we knew he was working with 50 and that, but he was like playing full Game joints I'd never heard. We were looking at, oh, Jesus Christ. This is when he was still supposed to be working on Detox. And so when we were in the studio looking at the equipment, and I'm just like, oh my God, can't believe I'm actually here. Like, at one point they're like, okay, they had photographer and they were going to do the whole, studio session, but, photos, and I was going to just do the interview like at some point when he was cool to do it. So I'm just kind of waiting around. And they were like, okay, Dre's ready for you. I'm like, oh, word, shit. So I'm like, I walk in and it's just literally me and him in this room. And it's like, there's like a desk and I'm like sitting in front of the desk thinking, I'm going to be just like it. And he like moved his chair all the way to the side of the desk and like sat there with like literally like 2 feet away from me, like all huddled in like this, like, it's like, oh, yeah, what's up? I was like, wait, we're just going to do it like this? Shit, bro. What's up, bro? Yeah, shit. And so I had a million questions because I knew I had done enough research and studied him enough. I know you ask him a question, he's just like, yeah. It's like, okay. Next question. So I was like rattling things off one at a time, and I would just use the one to get more out of him, the next question. And eventually I would like take the one question that started it. It might go over the series of 3 and I would pull those answers together and they would read as like a coherent answer. And they wanted, first time in my life, and maybe the only time I've ever done this, they wanted to see the article before it, or they weren't going to allow us to publish it. And he had actually was raving about this piece of equipment at the time. Oh my God, I love this thing, blah, blah, blah. And by the time we were going to publish, he was like, yo, take this out. I had a bunch of shit in here and it crashed and I lost everything. It was like, sorry to hear. I couldn't tell you what that piece of equipment is at this point now. At the time, I thought it was going to be the next big thing. Dre's like, oh, I got 5 of them in here. And it's because everybody was giving him everything. Yo, here, take it. Like,
Did you, in this interview or after, or any time in your visit with him, did you talk about records beyond Roy Ayers?
not to any large degree, no. Not in a beat digging aspect. It definitely, because it was the first issue of Scratch and it's Dr. Dre, and they're like, there's going to be very limited amount of time. I definitely kept it like very much in the
Yeah.
production beats, like,
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a free flowing vibe.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah,
Hell
no,
no.
no. And interestingly, we did the interview. They wanted the okay. They wanted us to show it to them, give the okay. We sent them when the magazine came out. I might have tried to reach out like for something else, like maybe a week or 2 later. no contact. It was like the phones had been disconnected and they were gone. Like it was like, wait, what happened? They opened the window. They're like, yeah, sure, come on. Open communication back and forth. The minute it was done, phew, they were gone. We were like, was that real? Did we actually just? So yeah,
Well,
very surreal.
it's an insane life experience. I mean, the article, great, but the fact that you live
Yeah.
to tell the tale, and
Yes.
it reminds me of, if you remember on the inside of Chronic 2001, there's a photo of him with Mailman where he's like
Yes.
leaning over and there's records everywhere,
Yep.
right?
Totally.
And nerds like me, and probably people who listen to this podcast, were like, well, what is that? What is that? I
Yes.
remember paying quite a bit for like a horror record that has something to do with blood
And
on
you
it.
saw on
Yeah, right? And it had like one like kind of drum sound on it.
yeah.
That, like how I was thinking, because
Ah,
it must be good
this
because
is not the
Mailman
shit. Yeah.
has to be the shit.
Actually, my man was there in A&R with Melman because Taz, Arnold, like they were all around in that era. And so, yeah, I wound up getting a little bit more understanding about, yeah, Dre was not the guy a lot of these guys were, but Dre's ear is pretty immaculate in regards to understanding like what is going to make a great record. And so, yeah, a lot of it was just him. Yes, that one. No, not keep going. Come in, another one, another one, another one. And that's why I think it becomes so. There's so few Dr. Dre productions because that process leaves not a lot to pass through it. Which turns into a much larger conversation about Dre and
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Dre, widely considered one of the greatest of all time. It's pretty
so,
common for people to say their favorite,
yes,
but it still feels like you wish there was a bit more.
without a doubt.
But he kind of did a lot, and also he's incredibly rich. Life could be worse, you know?
Could be a lot worse. And
Yeah.
again, I would put at one point I was probably saying Dre is my number one producer, but over the years I have reverted back to DJ Premier.
Okay.
And it was always between the two of them, but now, I mean, I just listened to the Rock Marciano record with Premier.
Pretty hot.
Yes. And again, that's why I say we're talking 30, we're going on 35 years here, 40 years. That sort of consistency still. I mean, I think Al is on a generational run right now, too. But yeah, when you look at their careers and the amount of output, Dre, I say yes, great producer, but again, is that consistency there for me? It's a similar J, well, not really a J Biggie, but more of a Biggie Pac thing, similarly too, because Pac again super prolific, and Biggie has 2 records, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like, but yeah.
So, what happened next for you?
So yeah, after the magazine thing, I went back to doing purely Wax Poetics, and that was great. I think at that point I was very zeroed in on like, okay, now I know how to run. I've worked for the larger company that made magazines. I know this newsstand game. I definitely picked up a few things and understood a lot of things like what not to do in regards to like how we wanted to do business. And so, yeah, I think that was really when we were like, are we going to go back and get a job and do the magazine on the side, or like, are we going all in? And that was when we decided, yo, let's get an office. Let's quit our other jobs. Like everybody commit to this full time and go in and go ham. And yeah, that's what we did. And so, yeah, over that next, 10 years, that was pretty much when, we wound up building the record label and the Japanese version and just running through helping build relaunch Fanya, and yeah, it was quite a ride there for a minute. So, and then that was it. Just kind of got to a point where the whole magazine game was falling off a cliff as a whole. Wasn't just pretty much anything in print at that point. So
Well, you had a tremendous run. It was successful, like I said, and I mean, all magazines ended. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
has really Wax Poetics, right?
yeah, yeah,
And since that time, we've seen even faster arcs, right, of
yes,
businesses, right? You've also worked in the tech world. You work in the music industry.
yes.
What is your thoughts on the future state of art and music, publishing, and I guess tech?
Yeah. Well, I would put tech at the center of all of it. Um, Even the labels want to be tech companies. They don't know how to be, and thank God, because I'm not sure I want to know what that looks like anyway. Um, I wish there were more cultural leaders within the tech space, but their ideas and voices are typically drowned out by engineers who typically think they know what's best for people, and don't probably work enough with people who do know culture in order to kind of like make sure that um, it works to everyone's benefit. Um, so, I think there's going to be that constant struggle back and forth with tech and content creation and content creators. Um, there's going to be people building pipelines in tech, but they always are going to need stuff to push through those pipelines. Understanding how and what people are consuming, again, will continue to become supercharged with data, and that will dictate a lot of what is going to get or green lit for consumption, or will never wound up seeing the light of day. So I think, I'm bullish on creativity. I think, people are creating some of the greatest art ever right now. I mean, I love so much of what is going on in the world of hip hop, because and I've been singing the praises of this for a long time. It's like nobody cares. It's like just go do you and fucking do, there's no reason for anybody to be standing around complaining about anything at this point. Like, you have the ability to go just do whatever it is you want to do. Find your audience. If you already older and have an audience, you got all the tools to go and reconnect and build that fan base and monetize them and do whatever you need to do. I mean, again, you've got even the ageist part being kind of busted down with guys like the Clips, the new run of the, Ray and Ghost records, and the Mob Deep record coming. And, I don't think anybody cares anymore as long as it's dope and you are happy doing it. There's probably going to be some people out there who are into it. And all you need to do is just tap in and find them. Um, and not give a fuck about what the next dude's doing, or he's making this or he's doing that, because it don't matter. There's at this point, I've watched some kids sit around for the first time listening to the Black Thought freestyle on
Yeah.
Lex. These kids probably 18, 20 years old. They were like, Black Thought, man. Yeah, I never heard of him. Or one guy, I think I heard of him, but with the Roots, huh? Yeah, they don't know what this is. And he starts, I'm like, oh, damn, he got bar. Oh, that's a bar. Oh, it's a bar. And it's Black Thought. It's like, yeah, bro, don't you know? But you realize, and this is the thing I think I started to understand as we were doing the magazine, and people were kind of like ossifying in their approach. And like, as I started to kind of like look at, Frank Ocean and Joey Badass and a group of other people who I thought deserved attention in the pages. There were other people who were just like, no, I don't want to read about those young kids. They're not this to me and they're not that to me. And it's like, you know, that process of like ossifying yourself to being open to music, I think is half the trouble that most older listeners have, because they, forget that at some point they were 16 and didn't know jack shit. And when they heard Chuck D or whoever, they just went, damn, yo, that shit's dope. And they just started going like this. And they didn't know, well, he sampled this record here and it came from here and he used this drum pattern and he made this on this machine. Like, nobody cares about all that shit. Even if that information is available right now for somebody to Google, let them enjoy the music. And if it's some music that you don't like, hey, your mother and father didn't like what you were listening to either. So again,
That's right. Absolutely.
like let these kids live their lives. And I realize, that is how you eventually let these kids sort of find it on their own, by not going, what, you don't know this, oh, that shit, that ain't no real hip hop, this ain't real, this ain't that. So I loved busting through all of that when suddenly I put SZA on the cover and we got Mac Miller in the magazine, and I knew I was rubbing some people the wrong way, but it was like, bro, it's like when I first started the magazine and had, the first issue had Mad Lib and Shadow and a bunch of other younger leaning, DJ Supreme. And then, of course, we had Idris Muhammad. And, it wasn't one or the other. It was like, how did these things come together? And as the magazine went on, it just became people pitching me a lot that I didn't write. Oh, we're going to do jazz issue. And next thing you know, I realized, oh, shit, it's all older shit. I made a conscious effort at one point to be like, to keep myself interested. I've been listening to Joey Badass. I'm like, yo, this kid's nice, bro. Listen to a bunch of the fucking Frank Ocean album came out. We were going crazy. Oh my God, this kid is ill. Who is this kid? Damn, bro, this a mixtape? What? So when I got a chance to actually get him in the magazine, because people who read Fader like him too, now we're not supposed to do anything with Frank Ocean? Like, bro, sorry, no. I'm still listening to every new thing that comes out under the sun. I was in the car this morning listening to the new Tres Leches Hiatus Coyote record with my kid. He's like, who is this? I'm like, he's 19. I'm like, this Hiatus Coyote, it's this Tres Leches smooth jazz record. I'm like, if you like this, I got some actual smooth jazz records you might enjoy. I'm sliding it in there. I'm at the same time listening to the new, obsessed with anything West Side Gun comes out with. So I'm all over the new album and anything that is on Griselda and the new clips and, again, the new Earl, anything that's interesting and keeping in line with what is my idea of keeping hip hop alive and creative. There's no dearth of that now. Boldy, James, anybody that's going in and out of Al's studio at this point, it's there's interesting stuff going on. But yeah, are you going to probably turn the radio on and hear it on Hot 97 or whatever? No, just like always, so
But I would say, the part about the radio and what's popular, so much of what you said makes sense. There is a kind of a thread that runs through all of those artists you mentioned. It's a thread of good taste.
Yeah.
Q-Tip said things go in cycles. He was absolutely right. And those cycles are faster than ever. So it's almost like things are coming back in. Things that you and I are talking about from years ago, they're popular now with young people. So
very much so, yeah. I agree.
There is no, like you said, there's nothing stopping anyone from doing anything. There's no excuses. And technology, it's there for who takes it. So there is opportunity everywhere. And you don't have to be popular with everyone these days. You could be popular with some people and be an artist.
Right. And again, I think the rap game fucked a lot of people's heads up where they thought they needed to be Drake in order to be a success. If you have a fan base and they pay money to come and see you and buy your records and buy your merch, and you make a living and you can take your kids to school and feed your family and pay your bills as a musician off of that music, bro, you good. Because
You won.
most people aren't able to do that off of their art, bro. Like, that's a hard ass. Most people are out here working shitty ass, miserable jobs, making a lot less money. So if you're able to make, a 6-figure salary, you may not be a millionaire, but you got a nice middle class like level lifestyle, bro. And I've seen some rappers that I've been like, I go in their house, I'm like, yo, what the fuck, bro? Congrats. Like, they're not like 90 million listeners on Spotify. They might barely have any, but they grinded. They were smart with their tour money. They were fucking smart with their pub and this, that, and the other. And they got themselves a nice little crib and they set, bro. I love that. I love to see it. I mean, because after doing the magazine, you hear so many horror stories. And now that I work in the world of catalog, I can see how, you make some bad decisions along the way and opportunities later in life just aren't there for you because you might have signed that away as somebody at some point out of a moment of desperation or just ignorance. And now you ain't got no leverage at this point, which, I'm all about empowering artists. And that's one thing I was able to learn. And now going into the label after understanding their stories in the magazine and going in the label and being able to work closely with some of them. And then now kind of in my career, trying to kind of help empower them even more, that was something I quickly realized going in the label. I'm artist side. Like, you get into the label, you think I'm helping the label. I'm calling artists that I know personally. Yo, I'm over here at Universal now. They're like, oh, damn, I forgot you was over there now, Dre. Like, I'm like thinking, I came here to help you with the catalog and get this and that. Oh, man, fuck them dudes, man. Oh, wait, what? Like, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, y'all don't, and so it became a lot of teeth pulling from me because I'm like, I came here to help you, but you don't want my help. And now I realize why. And so I'm like, you know what? Fuck these people too. Like, I'm like back to where I started. But eventually, I wound up going in there because I just felt if I keep staying on the outside and watching and commenting, I really don't know firsthand. Maybe there is something I can do in there meaningful. And so I went in and tried to do as much as I could meaningful. But yeah, it's like fighting, you can't fight City Hall. And so I think I have more opportunity to do more in the place I'm at now on the outside of it than I do inside. Because I realize how much time gets wasted inside corporations, period. Just meetings after meeting. And on Monday we got this meeting. On Tuesday we got this at this hour and this time. And I'm like, bro, what are we doing? And nothing ever gets done. And it's like, oh, I get it. You people are actually comfortable with this. Like, me as an entrepreneur, I'm like, yo, if we're not getting something finished, like, what are we meeting for? Like, I'm thinking we're moving things forward. They're like shuffling more papers around. How's that one going? We going? I said, yeah, we're going. Okay, great. Okay, next project. I'm like, yo, bro, what? So
Yeah, you're talking like an entrepreneur. They're in the bureaucracy of the music industry.
yeah. And, I just realized this is not for me. Like I said, most of these people, they never had entrepreneurial bone in their body. They've been at labels ever since they were an intern in college, came out. And so you can shake their hand. Most of them never had like a warehouse job or done anything meaningful other than like, and not that working in the music industry isn't meaningful, but for most of what people do, it isn't, because most of them aren't even there for the right reason. You'd be surprised when I walked in the first time, I was like, wait, this is our office? Like, you could hear a pin drop in there. I was like, and I walk into the executive's office and they were watching like CNN on their TV. And I'm like, what? is there anybody listening to music in here? Because I had just left Genius right before that. At Genius, it was like lit. Everybody's at their table listening to separate music, or they got headphone, vinyl up on their thing. We got Beat Machine downstairs. We're all getting together making beats after work and shit. Motherfuckers freestyling. It was like mad passion and energy. I got to the label. I thought it was like a dentist's office. I was like, bro, what the fuck? Are we selling insurance here? Like, yo, it was like pathetic. And, it's really not gotten any better. Like, even as far as where I was at when I left a few years ago from Warner, they're big ass corporations, bro. They're big ass corporations. And the people who are in there, sadly enough, they don't understand the power they have. They think, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here. And I would always tell people, bro, these places are nothing without you. They're literally using us and all of our goodwill and our passion to extort large amounts of money from most of these artists. Like, they know this is like the house always wins, and no artist coming through these doors. It's no wonder they're all angry and hate these people. Like, it's a shell game. And so understand, while you're in here, acknowledge that. Don't try to deal with these artists like, this isn't a rigged game here. Like, so I was always at least very open, and it's helped me, again, having gone into the industry after Wax Poetics. People, I would go in there, be like, oh, you Wax Poetics. Oh, I already kind of had a calling card of sorts. And then, so people knew where I stood. And even since then, when I was in there doing business, people appreciate me after, oh man, you did XYZ for me at Universal. Whereas the other guy they may have been dealing with for 10 years kicked it down the road and never got anything done. I was like, oh yeah, let me see what I can do. And I would go in and actually sometimes be able to actually do something meaningful, like them get their rights to their album back, where they can finally put it up on streaming and make money. Like, if for 10 years somebody can't do that, and then somebody comes in and it's like, yo, if that was the only thing I did at the label, I'd feel good about it, especially because it was like one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite records. So it's like, bro, here, please, it's my honor to be able to help out. But I don't think most people who work in those places are there for that. They're there because they think it's a cool job, and they can get tickets to shows, and they can tell people in their hometown they work in the music industry, and it's like, so yeah, I'm bullish on being an entrepreneur, and I told everybody who reported to me and every person who I mentor now, like, stay like with your other thing going, wherever it is and whatever it is. Like, and tell them when you get in this place, like, hey, it's great to be here. Sit down with your manager and say, I know what I'm here for, and I appreciate that. I just want you to understand I have some things I'm trying to accomplish in my life as well, and I might be a coordinator right now, but I really want to get to a director role, and I want to make sure that we're speaking regularly about how and what the action plan looks like for me to get there, because I've watched people go in there and they just feel so thankful to be here. 5 years go by, you're still a coordinator. Next thing you know, they finally bump you up to whatever, and now another 5 years go by, and another. Man, I've known people who've been there, bro, 20 years, never made VP. Been there 30 years, never made SVP. It's like, bro, what are you doing here? Like, if you're not advocating for yourself and your own, like, what are you here for? Are you here just to exist? And I asked my boss about that one time. He goes, that was the worst. He gave me the Indians and, chiefs racist, model for, like, yeah, some people are Indians, some people are chiefs. And it was like, so you'll let someone sit here for 30 years and not promote them, not give them a rate, as long as they're willing to put up with that. And you realize that's what these places are filled with. The people who will let that thing happen to them. And yeah, that's not me. That's not me. So yeah, I'm happy about where everything is with the industry and technology, but it's going to get a lot more difficult for some people out there. And I just think everybody can't be an artist. It's like it's great to aspire to want to be one, but I think what happens is there's a democratization of the internet and everybody can put music out. And then now you realize most of it people don't want to listen to. So I think there's some people who are just going to have to take, the L and be like, okay, I'm going to go do XYZ. But in the meantime, as they're figuring that out, there's 150,000 tracks hitting streaming services every day. And I think that's the challenge for most artists is just to get heard and be recognized. And that's why I keep telling them, just focus on one song. Most people are sitting around, it's not the old days of like, yo, you like hip hop in front of Fat Beats passing out your mixtape. Like, nobody's listening. Like, sorry. Like, you got one chance. Like, send somebody one song and hope that it's catchy enough that they put it on a second time. Because if not, no one's bothering to listen to the other 9 songs, bro. Like, it's just not going to happen. And yeah, you can put them all out, but, you're better off just keep putting the one until one finally gets, and then from there you start digging in and doing more. But yeah, I've been working with some younger artists, and it's hard. I love the world of catalog where I spend most of my time, but I love hearing new artists and new expression, but working with them on that side of it and trying to get something going can be harrowing experience. And, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, you got to really want this shit, or you're probably better off working at Chipotle, like real shit. So,
I think you have a very special set of skills, like Liam Neeson said, and I think you have a very unique take. I mean, beat
yeah,
digging,
thank you.
beat digging, publishing, other tech, music industry. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a very unique thing,
Yeah.
and it's quite a path you've paved.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think it goes back to that fearlessness, bro. I'm still on some other shit out here now. Now I'm on like immersive experiences and catalog and looking at, again, the future of what this looks like. So, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to 5-10 years from now we do this again and we talk about what that next phase looks like, because I feel like I'm still to some degree just getting started. I only got in the industry like 7-8 years ago, so most of these guys been doing this that are my age. They've been in it 20-30 years, and they're kind of like tapping out now. I came in and now I'm like, oh, I got this shit. Like, I thought they knew something I didn't. Like, on the outside before, I was a little insecure. When I got in there, I thought I might have had like, like, what do they call that syndrome where you like imposter syndrome?
Okay.
Shit, maybe I'm. And then I got in the room with these guys that are like running labels at Universal, and I'm listening to them talk and I'm asking them questions. I'm listening to answers. I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers don't know. They don't know more than me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They might have known how it worked 20 years ago, but they definitely don't know what it looks like. And they definitely don't know what 5 years from now looks like. I'm like, so I'm at that point, I'm like, well, fuck, bro. Shit. If they don't know, then I'm going to hang out. I'm going to stay here too. Like, if I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. Like, if they don't know, I got to know at least a little bit more than them. Because I'm actually curious. I'm actually willing to get in and try to understand and figure it out. These guys are checked out. They don't even care anymore. So I think that, I really appreciate when you say that, because that is something I've worked hard to not be lazy and fall back on, oh, that's the guy from Max Poetics.
Oh,
And
you've done a lot. I think at
you
this time in 2025, there's unbelievable new opportunities for people,
Yeah.
and they're being discovered and evolving right in front of us.
Yep.
And if we keep that mentality, I mean, that's the only way you're going to see it. Otherwise, you're fucked.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real. And I think, you're very keen in understanding how it is changing very rapidly, and will continue to. I think that's the part that keeps a lot of these guys up at night is the not knowing what that looks like.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
and I met on this podcast probably because of our common love of records, old things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is this kind of like some people look at it as a conflict, but it's not to me. I see it all in harmony because I like analog, I like old things. In my day job, I work in AI. I'm an expert in AI, and it evolves every week or two, right? And I find it tremendously exciting to see
Yeah.
things that could happen. I was like, well, maybe I could pursue that in my job or in my life.
Yeah.
And all I feel like unlimited when I would have seen like all kinds of steps before, those steps are being removed,
Yeah.
and it's exciting. Even this podcast, it's doing well because of the internet. I mean, this is not,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
technology, right? And
Welcome.
we're
Yeah.
talking. You're in Los Angeles. I mean, you're in California. I'm in New York. We're talking, and it's great. So, I mean, there are opportunities. We just have to find them.
Oh shit. Yeah, no, that's real, bro. That is very real. And again, I am a huge, well, as far as I have ethical issues with the framing and how we continue to integrate it into our lives, the value that AI will bring to everyone, and especially the music industry, I cannot overstate. And I'm involved in multiple avenues of dealing with it, from administrative side, on the creative side, music making side, marketing side, multiple companies that I'm either advising on or actively have an equity stake in. Yeah, no, I mean,
And
that's,
is- and there's certainly risks and downsides, of
oh,
course.
yeah, like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll just say when you think about life in the long term, I don't want to be on the losing end of technology. It's happening anyways, right?
Nope.
So as long
Bro.
as you have your personal ethics, I mean, there's opportunity
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. And again, I look at it like a tool, like everything else, yeah, some people are very scared of new tools when they come on, so I get it, and they're confused and they don't understand it. But I've been a paying customer for Chat GPT since the day it launched,
Yeah.
and have gone from $8 to $20 a month, or to 10 and 20. And at one point was spending like $80 a month on Mid Journey. And so yeah, I've been like deep, deep, deep in it, and have helped it's helped me put together decks that I charge $10,000 for, that it's certainly helped map out and organize lots of thoughts in a way that probably would have taken us a lot longer to do. So I'm a huge fan. I'm the one, like, in my kids' ears, like, hey, I know you probably think, oh, Dad, isn't that AI? Yeah, 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 I know, but you take a look at the way this person is using it. Like, they're like in their teens. They're like, oh, AI, AI, AI. I'm like, bro, it's gonna, like, you want to be an animator, you're not gonna get away from it. Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be everywhere, bro. Like, at least become familiar with how it's being used in this field. Or so, yeah, bro. We should definitely talk more about that at some point, because
Do you have time to play a word association game with me?
yeah, I got a couple
Okay.
minutes here.
I'll make it quick because we've had so much fun. We've gone way over, and I know you're a busy guy. I want to be mindful of your time.
I appreciate it.
So I'll name some songs, and you can tell me your opinion, a feeling, a personal story, an anecdote, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
Biggie Smalls, Who Shot You?
Wow. I mean, I was still living in Florida at the time that Biggie came out. 'Cause I didn't get to New York until like 95, like September 95. So, yeah, that is DJ Premier. Like, I was probably
It was
work.
Nachi Myrick who did that one.
Oh, was it? Was it? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Um, I'm trying to remember if I stole that CD from a place I worked at. I think I might.
It was first on a Bad Boy mixtape. They had quarterly mixtapes,
Yes.
and it came out as a 12-inch. And apparently, it was a Tupac disc. I didn't realize that till after.
Yes.
And
Lore.
yeah, and it was a single,
Yes.
and I remember loving it so much. And I was a young teenager, maybe like something between
Mhm.
14 and 16.
Oh yeah.
So I went to a Biggie Smalls concert in a small club in Toronto, Canada,
Damn.
and I was barely allowed to like go
No,
out.
see, at that age, that's
Yeah, it was like my second concert ever, right? And someone's elder cousin took us somehow,
uh-huh.
and it was the most dangerous shit I've seen in my life. Like there were people, like multiple fights. The police couldn't hold it together, and I was like getting thrown around, right? And I grew up in the suburbs. I mean, this shit was dangerous. I saw
Oh
like,
yeah, you're seeing it firsthand, like,
oh, it
bro.
was fucking crazy. And even Biggie was like roughing people up and like in the
I would
crowd.
imagine, yeah, bro.
Yeah. And I remember like he was like, I'm gonna rap this shit. Who shot you? He's
Oh, he
doing it
shot.
live.
He did. Wow,
Right.
bro.
And it was before it came out. I only heard the mixtape and I was just like rapping it back. And
Wow.
it was like a crazy experience. And I mean, looking back, it was unbelievable time.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, I love
crazy,
that record.
especially at that age, bro. That's you a legend before you even got to the appropriate age. Like shit.
There weren't a lot of young teenage Indian background guys at this concert. So it was a hell of a time.
I
I'll
would
tell you that.
imagine. Did you grow up in Canada?
Yeah. I was born in Toronto, Canada.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good shit. Okay.
Another record. Adrian Young and Ali Shahi Mohammed. Jazz is dead.
Wow. Well, I mean, after having signed Adrian, most of everything that Adrian's put out since I wind up getting early, pretty much. So I would have heard that project even probably while he was recording some of it. That didn't surprise me, but at the same time it did, because I was there when, he's like, bro, come out. I'm going to be in New York. We're going to have dinner, Korean barbecue with Ali Shahi Muhammad from Tribe Called Quest. Really?
Crazy.
Really? Wow. Okay. Shit. So I remember going and having dinner with Ali. It was the first time I met him. We were in New York and Koreatown, um, AJ was just talking about what he was doing, and at the time, I think Ali was doing production, not necessarily a lot of like live instrumentation stuff, but I think he had interest, and I think he saw kind of what AJ was working on, what his vision for. And AJ's always had like very big ideas, even if they were like bigger than his capabilities at the time or abilities. He always is going big, and I think Ali could see it, and yeah, I think I remember him when he first started sending me some of the early stuff. I was like, oh shit, okay, like wasn't didn't know what to expect, especially not knowing what Ali was kind of like, how he would find his place within that and how that relationship would develop. But yeah, I mean, it's like those guys are like family now. I see them, probably once every couple weeks at one of these shows that they do here. Either it's something they're putting on or something they're performing in. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting one, heartwarming, and like when I think about it, yeah, it's like apple pie. It's like family, and it's also for me, you know, it's like I grew up listening to Tribe Called Quest. I think similar to AJ, we used to talk about that. So for us to be able to be, or him to be now making music with Ali, it's like we're like kids who've grown up to realize our dreams with our heroes and shit. It's like, sometimes you kind of like, I'll be like, damn, this really is like happening. The motherfucker like willed it into existence. So, and again, a lot of that is that fearlessness that I was talking about with myself earlier. AJ's way beyond fearless. He's insane to the point of like, he'll sit at a drum set for 12 hours trying to get one drum beat right, knowing, hey, I don't know how to play drums, but I'm gonna figure it out. Like, that is what it takes to make it in the music industry. So,
He's an incredible artist. He's an incredible artist. The work they do together is great, and I
yeah,
like your personal relationship to them. I mean, it's
yeah,
great music in itself,
right,
and the story is even interesting as well.
yeah, right on. Thank you. Yeah, good people, definitely for sure. So,
The next one, it seems like every episode I talk about Dilla, so I feel like you might have a unique perspective. Slum Village, Look of Love, and also say anything from the legendary Dilla issue from Wax Poetics.
oh my God, wow. Well, I can go right into. I mean, I think there was a time where there was even some like misunderstanding of like who Dilla was and kind of like what he represented to people. And, I remember when he passed away and we were all saddened by it, but I don't think we had even considered like, I think not long before that, like J Master Jay had been murdered. And we'd never had considered really like doing anything in the magazine. And then it kind of like came up like, oh man, you guys should do like Dilla on the cover. And it was like, what? Are you crazy? And it was like, I immediately was like, no, there's no way. We're like, I mean, it's like I literally said it. Jam Master Jay just died, like got murdered. We didn't put him on. I mean, he's Jam Master Jay, like, and I think it was like I can't remember who it was that was like, oh, you know what? You should get on a call with some of the team, and started to kind of just like let me hear people out on this, and not be like the editor in chief guy, and like open myself up to like, man, you don't understand, man. Like, this would be a really special moment. And, I don't, people would really, and, I started to kind of look at our role in the magazine and like what rules I had or didn't have and why I had come up with these rules. And then was just like, you know what? It's like, I really, we can do whatever we want here. Like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do it. And, that I think was changed the trajectory of everything, because I don't think we even understood the impact that that issue alone, or that he and his death would have, and the kind of long shadow it would leave um, over everything that would follow. And so, that was definitely like, I loved Slum Village. I loved Dilla as a producer. Um, but I don't think I understood it beyond like my group of people or friends who understood who he was and knew him, and the kind of global impact that he had. None of that was like registering with me until we put him on the cover, and it was just like immediately people were rabid about it. And then I started to kind of wake up, and then it just became like a mythology, like shortly thereafter, where I think it still hangs. And thank God, because it actually kind of I started to kind of like recenter my kind of like compass points. It was like, wait, that a lot of this does come back to him, and oh, this chopping style or this type of thing, and oh wait, it's like all of it kind of is right here. Even if like Pete Rock may have done this thing, once Jay tried to do what Pete did, he kind of did it in a way that like I don't even think Pete could get to that point now and probably would admit to it. And so, yeah, it became very clear like this guy is like a one of one. And yeah, I don't think we'll ever see anything or anyone that will have the kind of impact that he had like on this game. And so, yeah, that's another one of those moments where I feel fortunate enough to have been open enough to just letting the universe lead me to, you know what, let's do this. And yeah, it paid off. I've had a few of those moments over my life, but certainly while we were doing the magazine, where I kind of just like, oh, all right, let's see what happens, and it like worked out really well. So, yeah,
I think you articulated so eloquently. Part of it is, I mean, your spirit of just like throwing the ball on the court and this happened, right?
yeah,
And when I think about music journalism, I used to be skeptical of it maybe at an early stage in life. But what happened there is that your issue helped to contextualize something very important, right?
yeah,
That like Dilla's legacy was very scattered with beat tapes and multiple labels and like little drips and drabs. So it felt like a secret to people who followed him, right? Like we're
yeah,
onto something that no one knows about.
yeah,
And that helped to show like this guy is important and it
yeah.
elevated it. And it's like a little piece of his lore that was an important document at the time. So I just want to say it's a fantastic thing you did.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, you know, again, I think it was really me kind of just taking that chance and then realizing I should probably do this more often. You know, certain, like I said, there were certain other opportunities in the magazine that I kind of like followed that lead like that, where it's like, you know what, I think this might pay off. Like Prince and Frank Ocean, like was similar situation. That was probably the biggest issue we ever did, actually. So yeah.
Did you have any interaction with Prince?
None whatsoever, no. And it was actually stated to me, make sure he doesn't find out about this, because if he does, he's going to shut it down and you're never going to get this article or issue out. So, yeah, and that was coming from his ex-manager, Alan Leeds, who was actually writing the piece and was not telling Prince that he was writing it at the time. And so, yeah, I mum's the word. From what I understand, he was favorable of it once he saw it posted coming out, but they told me if he finds out that it's happening while we're working on it, he's going to shut the whole thing down. So yeah, just kind of let it walk like that.
I mean, I feel like whenever I bring things up to you, you come up with these really wild anecdotes that I would have never predicted.
Attached to this. Yeah, a lot of it was like, yeah, winging it, bro. So you never quite knew where you were going to wind up with any of this stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked through so much. I could go through these stories all day with you. I'll ask you one final question.
Okay, all good, all good.
What do you care about today?
Wow. Well, you know, I had therapy this morning. So I would say at this point, thank you. You know, really, I'm looking for like calm, calm, you know, like I think a lot of my life, I didn't really know it at the time, has been very much driven on like adrenaline and impulse. And you know, I got to New York and you know there's like a ton of like external input, and you're out all day and you're out doing this and seeing this, and it's constant. And I think it wasn't until I came out here to California and we lived by the water, and I grew up in Florida, so going to the beach was nothing uncommon for me. But now I'm like living very close to it. I'm spending lots of time just sitting, and there's no like external, it's just all kind of internal. And so I realized so much of life and the way that I had been operating was just on wound up and fast, go, 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 go. And the idea of just turning it all off and like being calm and still is foreign concept for me. I mean, it's something I still struggle with to try to, meditate with my wife or any of this stuff. My mind is always going a million miles an hour. I suffer for now that I have gone to get diagnosed. They've kind of explained, oh, you got OCD, and I had to go to a sleep therapist because I would my schedule was completely upside down. I'd be up all night, and then I sometimes wouldn't fall asleep till 3, 4 in the morning. And then my schedule, I'm trying to be a responsible father and work in a music industry. And so, yeah, I've had to reprogram a lot of my life around, I wound up with 2 herniated discs a couple of years ago. They were like, oh, that's all stress built up in your body over years. It just kind of like catches up. I'm like, wait, you can physically, stress will have that kind of effect on it? Like, so, Jesus Christ. So I've had to take very measured steps to ensure that I don't get wrapped up in this shit, that I don't let, especially being an entrepreneur, running your own magazine, you got a lot of responsibility, people's lives. They have to pay their rent, mortgage, you're not only doing it for you at that point, there's other responsibilities. So, I just was running, go, 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 whatever it took. It would just be like, if I had to stay up 15 hours to get something done, then that's what I got to do. I remember waking up so many times in Brooklyn, I was working on the magazine, and then my wife was working at one point in the restaurant industry. So I would have to take the kids to school in the morning, and I might have had 2, 3 hours of sleep. And it would just be like the alarm would go off and be like pop up and just start going. I'd be feeling these aches and pains in my body. Like, oh, my back is killing me. You're in New York, you're not even thinking about it. I got out here to California. I go to get a massage. The guy's like, ooh, you having trouble walking? I'm like, no. It's like, because you got knots on top of knots on top of that was shit that just built up. I thought that was normal. I thought it was just, I turned 40. I just figured that's part of they're like, no, bro. So I now have to purposefully look for ways to find calm and serenity and peace and understand the real value of that, of not having your mind spun up all the time. I'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about something, thinking, oh, mama, I got the jump on. Everybody else is asleep right now. I'm going to be like, I got the ideas. I'm going to bang them over the head. Like, bro, go to bed, bro. Then the next day I'm half groggy because I've been up all night. I can't even operate clearly. I'm like, bro. So I understand now the value of getting a good night's rest and getting some stretching in and hitting the gym and going out and taking your dog for a walk and sitting down and just watching something stupid with your wife on TV. Everything doesn't have to be a thing and you're trying to build this and that and the other, and just chill. So I think I would say that's what I'm looking for at this point, is calm and serenity. And I'm on an eternal search. So yeah, anything that can help me get there, I'm all for it. So yeah.
I think that's really generous. You kind of shared that because I think anyone could benefit from that.
Right on, yeah.
See the pattern over time. People could always relate in their own way.
Yeah.
So very thoughtful for you to be so open with that.
I appreciate that.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, if it can help somebody else. It took me too long to figure that out. So, man, bro, if you can get it in early. I thought it was normal. They're like, no, you got some you got some thoughts. I'm like, I thought when I thought about something a lot, that just meant I was doing a lot of thinking and I was smart. You got to think about it. Like, it's good when you think about it like 2 times. If you think about it 10 times, then it's like, that's obsessive. Oh, I never had nobody break that down for me. It's like, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, if somebody can hear that and go, damn, I think about shit 10 times too. Maybe I should go and ask my doctor, do I have OCD? Like, hey, bro, it might help. Might help. So, yeah, I'm here as a guinea pig for the rest of the world, definitely.
Much appreciated, Andre. Thank you so much for your time. This has
Wow.
been a hell of a discussion.
Likewise, bro. I appreciate the time. Definitely. No, I appreciate you giving me the space to wander and roam down memory lane. And yeah, no, it's great conversation. So thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, brother.
Likewise. Talk soon, man. Peace.